I'll dive in on that one because I welcome you to come to an RPX experience where the camera is actually in the center and it is actually in a hole that is about this big, and you honestly don't notice it. And it's an array of cameras. That is a huge challenge if you want to then leverage the high quality displays that exist at the moment, because you can't punch a hole through the middle of an LCD display. There are other technologies that you can use involving mirrors and prisms and things to get that same effect. There are technologies you can use to put cameras above and below and match the images and then electronically work it out. It really comes down in the end to a price performance issue. In our portfolio, our lower end telepresence systems have the cameras above the screens. You get an off angle eye contact at the periphery, but that's used in smaller rooms. And the bigger room systems, we are absolutely firmly committed to keeping the eye contact in the center because of exactly that experience. Unfortunately, that makes the solution much more expensive.
And I think one of the fundamental problems with the eye gaze, if you really want to correct it, every participant in a room needs to have their own view of the remote side, which means you're now sending in a 6-person room, you're now sending 6 images of each of those displays. So again, we love pushing bandwidth, we'd be happy to do it, but I'm not sure that all the customers are going to want to do that. And then going back to, you still have to solve the problem of how do you actually get that camera angle right. Stuart talked a lot about that. And some of the things that we've seen, like the camera above and below, where you actually then interpolate what the right angle is of that face. One word comes to mind when I've seen that, kind of freaky. So the technology just isn't quite there yet. So I think it'll be a while before you start to see that getting solved.
And I think you've also got to understand that you're solving for one particular case, which is the single room to single room. Yeah. The minute you go to multi-point, you've solved potentially at a very high cost a very small problem in the overall. So again, it is a trade-off between cost and utility.
I like to say telepresence is a science of trade-offs, and it's price, performance, and what are you going to do? One of the things I think is interesting that most people don't really know about, but Microsoft is actually working on a technology called wedge optics that would use somewhat of a prism system to be able to put the camera invisibly essentially in the center of the screen. And so I think that has some potential. If you do a search on the Telepresence Options website for wedge optics, you can take a look at what they're doing. And so I think you'll see these incremental improvements that will address aspects of it, but that just solves for one head-on meeting. It doesn't solve for large group meetings where you're going to have other issues.
So show of hands, how many people are actually